What's up, guys? So we've been talking about the Scorpio for a while now, obviously, because the buildup has been pretty long. I mean, we've been waiting since, what, last E3 to talk about this thing and actually see it, like, in person at this point, because they had that big teaser reveal kind of thing they did, and now we're getting closer and closer, so they're starting to reveal more and more stuff about the Scorpio. They had a very interesting video that went up with Major Nelson talking to, of course, Major Nelson, Larry Hryb, talking to one of the developers of the development kit for the Xbox Scorpio, and they had some interesting things to talk about. One of the big ones, really, to me, that was really interesting, was that Major Nelson talks about the Scorpio's dev kit and how it looks very similar, except for a few things, which included a different screen.
Kevin, the kit looks completely different from Project Scorpio. I see different buttons, I see a different display, some other things in the back here. What's going on here?
Now, if you don't know, they've already outlined pretty much everything about this development kit, where it's stronger, it has twice the amount of memory and an extra 1 terabyte SSD, according to them, just to help developers who are creating games to kind of build with their imagination completely how they want, and then figure out a way to scale it down to the Scorpio. And that apparently makes it easier to develop games. You don't have to kind of develop in, say, like a confined box. You can kind of literally let your ideas spread out a little bit and then try to put them in that box. So it makes sense there. But the fact that he says that the dev kit has a different display, which tells me that maybe the Scorpio has a display with the retail unit. And I thought about this for a little bit because it actually has some pretty cool features they could add to it if they decide to. Now, they do go a little further in this video. They show things where the screen on the front is kind of like an OLED screen, I think, or it's just an LED screen on the front, but it can display multiple things, not just numbers, like images. For example, they talk about how on Xbox systems, which this has been known for a while, it runs basically a benchmark, or in their case, they call it a CPU timing application called Dolphins, where it'll run different Dolphins on screen, and you could add multiple ones. According to them, they've been running this since the original Xbox. I remember seeing this and hearing about this kind of thing on the 360. So this has been used for quite a while. In fact, I mean, this is the late 90s then when it was in development, or 2000 for the original Xbox, up till now where they're using it on the Scorpio. They say it's kind of a fun little benchmark thing they add on there, but apparently it helps them with CPU timing.
Kevin, I want to talk about Dolphin. For those of us that have been in the Xbox team for a long time, it's a major moment when Dolphin appears on the console. Can you give us some history of Dolphin and how it appears on this XDK?
Absolutely, Larry. Dolphin has a lot of sentimental value for me. As we start a project, one of the first things we actually start to implement is Dolphin on console, and we've actually done this since the original Xbox. And
no, it's not the Dolphin you're thinking of maybe when you first heard this in the interview they did, or you see it around the internet because everyone's kind of making jokes about it. No, it's not the Dolphin emulator for GameCube. This is more like one that they use in-house specifically as they go through their console generations to work on it, make sure the CPU timing in their case is correct, and just get it up and running. They said that's usually the first thing they do, is get this Dolphin benchmark simulation up and running. So the LCD screen, let's talk about that for a minute, the one on the front. They talk about how developers can program it to say anything they want, whether it is frame rates, for example, which seems to be the biggest one, button mappings, all kinds of stuff can be displayed on the front. They even, like I said, go as far as to run Dolphins on there. But if that's the same one that's at retail, this could make this idea very interesting, because what if the LCD screen on the front at retail can be controlled by the developer for the end user, or the end user can control it? Let's say, for example, you're trying to remember how many slots in your inventory you have open, and you can just look at the front of your Xbox while you're playing it, and it'll tell you you have X amount of slots open, rather than having to hit start and go to your inventory and check. That's another idea, but you can also do things like, say you're a streamer, you enjoy doing Twitch, or in their case, Beam or Mixer streaming. Maybe on the front there, you can have comments be displayed, you can have number of people viewing you as opposed to your views. There's a lot of things you can do with that front screen. I think this could be actually really interesting, as long as it's not just a frame counter. From there, they go on to talk about a very interesting ventilation system they have for this Scorpio dev kit. I wonder if the retail unit's gonna be the same way. The way he describes it, the back, or at least the fan inside, is not really pushing air out the back. It's actually drawing air in and then pushing it out through the sides of the system, which is interesting.
And we changed the way the airflow comes in, so it basically comes in the back and out the sides, and that allows the kits to be stacked 10 high. So for example, Turn 10 Studios has a great lab setup, and you just go in there and they have tons of Xbox dev kits stacked up to 10 high. with only one monitor kind of controlling all of them.
So usually you have it so that it exhausts air out the back of the system. And maybe going through the sides is a better technique for them. I'm not really sure. I do know with certain closed loop water cooling, for example, some people will actually intake air through the back just because that's their setup. So yes, you can do that. It's just an interesting idea for them to do that when they probably could R&D'd it so it goes out the back. But the reason they said it is because, of course, we know the Xbox One, it has that fan shooting air out the top or pulling it in, whatever. The ventilation is through the top of the Xbox One, and apparently developers stack several of these things, up to 10 high according to them, and because the ventilation's on the top, they had to make spacers where he even said they went as far as to use Legos. So according to them, places like Turn 10 will just stack these up. Now with the new Scorpio Dev Kits, they said it's much easier. That's an interesting side effect. I wouldn't have really thought of that, stacking consoles. I have stacked consoles in my time, but for example, my Xbox One Slim sometimes sits on my PS4 Pro. But it's an interesting thought to have 10 of them stacked high while you're doing like computations and working on a game. The other thing is seeing the actual dev kit kinda in comparison to them, it looks small, which tells me that more than likely the Scorpio itself may be that same size or even smaller, which it means it'll be maybe the same size or a little smaller than the Xbox One S, which is already a fairly compact system. So this is going to come out much smaller than I think a lot of us were expecting, since the first Xbox they bring out is bigger than a VCR, and this one coming out now is going to be pretty slim, and it's going to be very powerful, obviously. They're saying it's still going to sit around 6 teraflops and give us a 4K experience, and really at this point, I would love to see some creative ways for them to use that front screen and not just make it a frame counter. If you could do there's so many cool ideas you can do there. I'm sure plenty of you guys will come up with ideas in the comments that I haven't even thought of yet. But I really hope that they can kind of harness that screen on the front. It just seems like a really neat idea to kind of play around with it, as long as developers either give users control of it or program different ways into the game. I hope they don't get lazy and make it like how back on the Dreamcast, the VMU, sometimes they would just display whatever game you're playing. I hope that doesn't become like either a frame counter or just a, hey, you're playing Halo 6, congratulations, it's just displayed on the front. But yeah, guys, I think this is just the teaser they put out just to get us hyped up for Scorpio. The reveal will be very interesting. That's coming up pretty soon, actually. Sunday's getting here pretty quick. It's already almost Wednesday, so I'm excited to see what they at least can put out there. I hope they have some exclusives or at least new games to announce with it, so that we don't just get a very powerful machine with nothing to play on it. But this at least is something that can help push gaming forward in terms of hardware. That screen on the front really has me interested now, so I'm going to keep an eye out for that as well, just to see what they come up with as we get closer to this reveal. But that's it for now, guys. I will see you tomorrow morning for Newswave.